A very good morning, everyone. A very good morning, everyone. Welcome you to Rehab Conclave, Bangkok 2024 on the second day. I hope everyone has enjoyed the keynote sessions on yesterday, and I would like to have all the participants to have same enthusiasm today. I'm Joshi Roshni, and I'll be your moderator for the day. Now, I would like to welcome our first keynote speaker, Ms. Maria Petroleum, Head of Physiotherapy, Rayo Vallecano de Madrid, SAD, Spain. Ma'am, over to you, please.
Hello, everyone. In order, amazing, because I need to share my screen. You can all see my screen?
We could see your screen, ma'am, but we could see your Zoom screen.
No, my PowerPoint one.
No, ma'am, your PowerPoint is not visible.
1 second, please. Now?
Yes, ma'am, now it's visible.
Okay, amazing. So I'm Maria Petromelidou. I'm a sports physiotherapist, and I'm going to speak about the emotional responses to injury and the rehabilitation process of an ACL rupture in professional football players. The purpose of the research. We had an injury and a really long time of staying out of the regular program of the season, and that was creating emotional responses to our athletes. Emotions such as fear, disappointment, anger, uncertainty. So this turns our pattern of rehabilitation as a biopsychosocial pattern, because we're not only speaking of the physical rehabilitation, we're also speaking about the emotional problems that the person is going through when facing an injury. We are now see this. We're gonna see this journey through the football players' eyes, through their experiences and opinions. It's one of the most common injuries in football, an ACL rupture. It can be account for up to 43% of the total number of injuries in football players. And it's not only what the studies are saying to us, but also it's what the players say to us, that it's the injury that they fear the most, actually. The psychological residue that accompanies a long-term rehabilitation and absence from competition prevents the athlete from fully returning physically and mentally to pre-injury levels. There is a need to overcome the psychological difficulties as well before the re-entering into the sport. We always have a fear of re-injury whenever it's coming back from a big injury. I'm not talking about a muscle rupture of grade 1 or grade 2 that they're gonna make them stay away, but not for that long, at least not as long as an ACL injury. Most of the times they come back with lack of confidence and a lot of negative emotions. Let's talk about the injury and the athlete. The athletes that are experiencing discomfort around their injuries, that means that they are not feeling good about their injury and the rehabilitation process, tend to either speed up the rehabilitation process or slow it down. in both cases, for the therapist, this is a problem because we cannot speed up a process that we are already speeding up if we are speaking about a sports person. Neither can give them all the time that they want, because there are some things that we need to do in a specific time period frame, such as, for example, the knee flexion or knee extension, that we know that we have some months to in order to achieve it, because if we don't, we will never get back the full range of motion. This is a reason why we should avoid to streak in the main protocols that we do have about an ACL injury, as we have for other injuries. And we shouldn't be only concerned about the physical health, but we should also be a bit concerned about the psychological needs of the athlete at that moment. Physiotherapy in general, we know that is a science whose success is based in the relationship, in the good relationship between the therapist and the athlete, because their interaction is giving this therapeutic alliance that we need in order to achieve our goals. In the case of the patients with ACL injury that are sports people that are actually working with their body, this makes it a great challenge for the physiotherapist. Why? Because a sports person knows his body, knows what he needs to do, or he thinks he knows what he needs to do. He probably goes to the gym by himself also, not only when the team says so. So he's doing a lot of things of exercise. So then he will come to you and he will say, we should do that, or we should do this thing, or why don't we do this thing? My friend that had another injury, but he also were going to gym, was doing another thing. I want to do the same. So it's always a challenge, this process with an athlete, because you need to know how to handle the situation and be confident in yourself, because obviously you know better than them. Although you need to be close to them, because you cannot let them think that you know everything, they don't know nothing. Biopsychosocial model of physiotherapy, addressing the psychosocial factors in the rehabilitation of an ACL injury, could be in the future and improve not only of the quality but also of the progress of the rehabilitation process. It will affect optimal knee function in the long term and allow more patients to return to their pre-injury competitive levels. We can understand that this can happen because whenever you know that the person that is getting the rehabilitation, if he's mentally open to receive all the information about their injury and actually fight for it, they're gonna be in a rehabilitation mood, if we could say, that it's gonna be way more beneficial for him, but also for the therapist. About the emotional responses that can give us an injury like that, most of the times we have a disappointment. The players feel disappointment. After, they feel a lack of motivation because they are keep saying, why to me? Why does it this needed to happen at this moment of my career? Or could I do anything different in order to not be in a place that need to get through this? Um, After that comes another feeling, that is the fear of re-injury, because whenever you had one big injury, then you are afraid that sometime it's going to happen again, the same injury in the same knee. Most of the times they are losing the sports identity, because we all know that if you have as a full employment the sport, this is your job. So all of us, if we would lose our job, we wouldn't be the same. So for them, that they are sports people, it makes them lose their identity, which costs them a lot. They have a lot of stress, and a lot of times we can observe a food intake disorder because of all the situation that is going through. They are going through. They also have problems with their food intake. We have emotional and physical stress that leads us to reduction of sports performance, that makes harder the transition into the next stage of the rehabilitation, makes even slower the return to sport, and overall we have an unsuccessful dealing of the injury. About the methodology of this investigation, the research was based on an interview using a questionnaire given to the athletes about injury, rehabilitation, and the importance of psychological support. Athletes were given the opportunity to respond freely without any guidance beyond the standard questionnaire given to all. We all the time gave them the freedom to say whatever they want. If they could say more about a question that we had, we always let them say more, and we never stopped them during this interview.
Okay, so sorry
Therefore,
to interrupt you, ma'am.
yes,
Your slides are not moving.
excuse me.
Yeah, ma'am, now it's fine.
Okay, you cannot see my slides turning.
Yes.
Okay, I will leave it then like this, not in a full presentation mode, because it could be because of this. Now you can see it turning.
Yes, ma'am, it's turning now. Thank you.
Okay, amazing. So the responses that we got from this questionnaire were grouped into 5 main categories. We had the fear of re-injury, the emotional response to the injury, the team and the pressure to return, the emotional aspect of recovery, and the psychological support in the sport. In general, in sport, not only in the rehabilitation process of an ACL injury. The participants, from all the participants that we got in contact, that were all professional football players, men football players with an ACL injury. We made a selection of a number of 5 people with an older or a more recent one, a more recent injury. All of them had already stopped with the rehabilitation process, had already terminated, and they were actually already back to the sport and they were playing. The professionals were playing at the moment of the injury in the categories of Super League, which is the first category of football in Greece, Bundesliga, the first category of football in Germany, and League Two, the second category of football in France. Their full employment was football, and only one of them received psychological support in the rehabilitation process. Not during the whole rehabilitation process, it was a time period of 6 weeks, but he did receive psychological support. The protocol of the interview. In the first part, we had more of general introductory questions about the time of the injury, the mechanism of the injury, the position that they had in the field, the age, when exactly did it happen in their career. In the second part, we had a bit more about the experiences and the views on injury and the psychological aspect of the sport. The interview was made by the main author of this investigation, which was me. It took place in the athletes training area. It had a duration of more or less 35 minutes, and we also used nicknames in order to preserve the anonymity of the players. I do need to say though that all of them signed a consent form that informed them that we might use their personal information, their real names, and they were all okay with that. But I wanted to keep them secret because the point of this interview, this research, is to see how this can affect our job as a physical therapist, not to give it more publicity. Also, it was really important to have the interview taken place in the training area of each player because they already were coming with a bit of stress about the interview, which I can understand because every one of us, if he gets interviewed, he's going to be stressed in the beginning. So we thought that it would be way better if they would be in their physical environment rather than a place that they didn't know before. About the results now, we didn't analyze that much the first questions of the questionnaire because we used them in order to break the ice, because we wanted them to be to be able to speak freely in the main questions that we needed in order to conduct our investigation. We did find a lot of common answers about the emotional reactions in the athletes' responses. 3 out of the 5 were injured at a really young age, so they were injured at the peak of their career. And 2 of them had ACL rupture in an older age, but they were not ready to retire yet. So they had already succeeded in their career, but they needed to keep succeeding at this period of time. We have the responses presented grouped below. About the injury and the re-injury, we have some of the things that the players told us. Alex told us that it's a part of the game in the sports injury. You will get injured, industry, I'm sorry. You will get injured, you will get re-injured, you need to keep playing, you need to be there all the time. There will always be the possibility of injury, but I cannot keep thinking about it. It was a thing that Joe said to us. Because of my position as a center back, I am constantly in duels with the opponent. I can't be afraid to go to the ball. If I hit near the knee, if I have a hit near the knee, I remember my injury instantly and I'm scared. We are seeing in the responses an emotional reaction of all of them. I'm still scared, but I know how to handle it now. Until you get seriously injured, you think that you are invulnerable, something that happens a lot. And for those who have already experienced working with sports people, they will understand that they think that they have the strongest bodies, the strongest mentalities, nothing will ever happen to them. So it's actually a really big shock whenever this happens, when they need to go through an injury, not only an ACL injury, in general. Let's see a few things about the injury through Tony's eyes. It is one of the most serious injuries for a football player and the one that scares us the most. But once you get over it, it doesn't scare you that much anymore. Actually, at the time of the interview, he had an ex-teammate of his that he was a really good friend of his, that he also had an ACL injury. I remember that it was like 1 week after. The interview happened 1 week after the injury of his friend. So he said to me that if he hadn't go this whole process by himself to know how it is, he would think that his friend was doomed, that he was injured by an ACL. But because he had already gone through it, he knew that also his friend, he could succeed in this rehabilitation process. And they were actually in constant conversation and communication between them two, because the player, recently injured player, needed the guidance or the ideas of my player, Tony. Some of the emotional responses to the injury. It's obvious that an injury has an emotional effect on your psychology. I was very sad and shocked because it came at the best moment of my career and at a time of the season when I already had 5 goals in 6 games, which is really important. We know that as many goals as you can score, it's better for you because you're gonna have a really good journey, if we can say, for this season. So obviously you are more appealing to other clubs the next seasons. The moment you find out that you have what you have, too many bad thoughts go through your mind that you cannot actually control. Ross said to us that if he hadn't been looking for things about his injury in order to have answers to his questions, he wouldn't be mentally prepared to deal with it. And another player said to us that you freeze, you're scared, you cry, or you're completely calm until you get the MRI results. Because there are some situations that on the field at this moment you can do all the tests that you need and that will not have a clear image of what is going on. So then the protocol says that you are waiting 24 hours or 48 hours in order for the swelling of the injury to go down a bit, and then have an MRI in order to see what actually is going on in the knee. So some of them that they didn't experience pain during the injury or the first 2 days of the injury, they were more calm because they thought that it couldn't be an ACL injury because they didn't feel pain. So whenever the results came, they were shocked. About the club and the pressure to return. If the club is putting pressure on them to return, Ross told to us that no one signs a contract with you if you are injured. Everything expected me to come back at 8 months, so I knew that if I could come back earlier, other teams would see me more appealing because they would see me as a beast and they would want to sign a contract with me, which is really important. The problem is not that much your own club, that obviously because they are paying you, they want you to come back. But the main problem is that your club will not renew your contract or will not sign you again or will not help you in order to sign in another team, because if this happens, let's say in the first games of the season, then you will not have something to give them in order for them to be able to help you or renew your contract. So it's a really difficult situation for the player because they always need to be with a team. They cannot stay out. And obviously, when you're working with that, when you're getting paid for that, it's difficult if you know that you're not going to have the same opportunities as before. Another player said to us that the pressure is more accepted by the general operation of the sports industry and not that much from the team itself. About the funds for the athletes, this was a really interesting topic because there are some leagues, football leagues, that they actually have really passionate fans, supporters. So it was also nice to see the difference a bit between the German fans, the French fans, the Greek fans. But the main thing is that they said to us, the players, that the fans were their strength, that they needed those messages that they were getting from them, because it was a motivation for them to not give up and keep going, because they made them want to return more, to return back to their sport, to return back to the field and this whole atmosphere that they were experiencing in the field. The emotional aspect of the rehabilitation. They spoke to us a lot about the importance of their family and friends, as they said that they were the ones that encouraged them in order to forget what is actually going through. They all experienced it, negative emotions at some stage of the recovery that made them want to give up, which is pretty normal, I would say. Joe told us that he needed to to go back. Excuse me?
सामान ठेवायचं असेल तर sorry for the inconvenience, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Okay. So basically, Joe told to us that he needed to go back to his home country, because we also need to think about the fact that a lot of those players don't actually are from the country that they were playing. So probably they're going to have their families, their wives or kids or parents, depends on the age, also in another country. So for Joe, it was really important to be back to his own country for the first stages of rehabilitation, because he could be surrounded by his friends and family, and he would always be more focused to his rehabilitation process, and he had a better mental health, as he said, because he was more relaxed. He didn't have one more thing to think about. About the first return to sports emotions, they said to us that I had fear, excitement, that were the dominant emotions in the first official match. They said to us that the friendly games that the coaches made for them before their first match really boosted their confidence. They kept having fear mainly in the duels, and it was very important for them to be ready, to feel actually ready in order to play. About the first game, let's see some of the players what they said. When the coach picked me up to warm up, I was shocked because I didn't think I would play. I had already sat on that bench before, but I hadn't played. So you can imagine how I felt at that moment. I was nervous and scared because I didn't know if I would give my 100%. And the memory of my injury at that moment was very vivid. I remember that in my first game, someone tried to steal the ball from me, and I automatically covered my knee because I was so scared. I played the best game of my life. I felt like I was flying on the court, and my emotions were crazy. About the psychological support and the rehabilitation process. Ross had a slightly different experience from other athletes because he was actually the one that was seeing a psychologist for a short period of time. More specifically, he spent a period of 6 weeks in a rehabilitation clinic, a period of the first 6 weeks of the rehabilitation process. So there, every Monday, there was a psychologist that was going to see him. He was not a psychologist, a sports psychologist, but he was actually a psychologist there for all the people that were injured and they were staying in the clinic. So he said to us that it was very important for me to share my thoughts about this whole situation and also about my later career. He believes that a psychologist is essential in injuries like his because, as he told to us, it helped him a lot because it helped me a lot because I kept my head clear and I could be focused on what I needed to do. About the other players, again with Ross, the one that he actually got the psychological support, he said that he remembers that there was an exercise that he knew he had to do, but he didn't feel comfortable doing it. So it was very important for him to speak about this with his psychologist, share his thoughts, and then this conversation helped him in order to clear his mind and actually do the exercise that he had to do. Joy said to us that sometimes you try things and they don't go the way that you want. It affects you, and someone that is qualified can help you and guide you in those moments because we have a lot of feelings of frustration also. If you're supposed to do something, you could do it before, but you cannot do it now, you're getting frustrated. Alex said to us that it's important to have someone skilled you can trust to be able to guide you through situations that are new to you. It's necessary to keep your mental health and would help a lot of players. And Alex actually told us that it's not only about the moment that you have an injury like that, it's for every injury and it's for every moment in the club because not every day is a good day. And every time they need to change their place, they need to change their friends, they need to change their life. So only that is stressing already emotionally every player. Let's take a moment to see those photos that are actually coming from my players, and I have their consent in order to show them to you. It's actually really brutal. An ACL injury and the operation and the rehabilitation process is actually brutal. Because, okay, in the first image that we can see on our left, it's inside the operating room that after they have finished with the work, they need to see if they have the extension or the flexions in order to know that it was successful. But this, you can imagine, under that moment, in that moment, you are under anesthesia. But this is a really big impact on yourself. It doesn't mean because you are in anesthesia, when you will wake up from the anesthesia, you will not feel this whole situation that happened during your operation, during your surgery. And then we can see the third photo, we can see how it was the insertion of the player, that he got to see his leg in that way. The same in the second photo. And also we can see that whenever we had already started with rehabilitation process, we had a lot of hematomas in the last photo that we can see back in the area of the hamstrings. So also this can scare a lot a player, because it's not an image that they are used to it. And also if you have an hematoma later on your rehabilitation process, you are a bit confused because you thought that you had already done the healing process of the body, so you just needed to gain back your range of motion and your strength. This investigation is a really good opportunity in order to investigate a bit more about the emotional factor in the injuries and the rehabilitations process. Our athletes showed to us that they needed someone to guide them and maintain their mental health when facing situations that are new to them. And in order to be able to frame this view more thoroughly, with researchers to conduct research related to the education of physiotherapists in the emotional responses to post-injury rehabilitation. To conclude, we saw that they went through intense situations and emotions in sports. The emotions with a positive feeling, they cannot be managed also, because they make the players feel like they are overflowing with emotions. And this came from that reaction that we had for the first game that everyone had, that one of the players said to us that he was feeling like he was flying, he had the best match of his life. He was actually tearing up in the moment that he was having the interview that was already 4 years later than his injury, because it was a feeling that overflowed him, and it was not a bad feeling. It was a really positive feeling, but it affects him. Not only the bad, so we're not only speaking about the negative emotional responses, but we also need to handle the really positive ones that they cannot handle them. The negative feelings and thoughts about the injury and the racing future. And we also have to say that all this situation can turn our pattern of rehabilitation in a biopsychosocial pattern. You can also see later in the presentation the bibliography, which was mainly in order to understand the whole injury and the rehabilitation protocols that there are about this ACL injury. And we also got some ideas about the questionnaire of other quality investigation, not in this field, but other quality investigations. Food for thought. Could a physiotherapist specially trained and educated in the psychology be the solution for the athlete that we're looking for? I'm not saying that we should step in the area of a psychologist. The only thing that I'm saying is a physiotherapist is a person that lives an athlete every day, since the first moment that they arrive in the sports center until the last time that they are going to go out. And they don't only experience them in the days of the injury, they experience them in everyday life. And I'm sure your fellow physiotherapists know that our patients have this urge to speak to us during a session, to speak about more about their personal life, their worries and everything. So I do believe that it would be really important and exciting and interesting to see physiotherapists that are actually well educated in this field helping their athletes. This investigation actually was a reason that made me to want to go for a certification, a seminar of sports psychology in athletes, because I wanted to understand a bit more about how they actually feeling and how we can help them. And without being a psychologist, I have seen that after I got this new information, I'm handling my athletes way better than I did before because I can understand them way better and I can actually help them in some things. Because sometimes the only thing that you need is say to them the right word, and then it works like that. They are not blocked anymore, and they can do the thing that you presented them that they were supposed to do. Thank you very much for your time. Do you have any questions that I could answer? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Uh, Participants, the floor is open for the questions. You may drop your questions in the chat box.
You also have my email in the presentation. So if someone wants to ask something later, they can message me in my email. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Glad to have you with us on today. Hope to see you in our upcoming conferences also. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Now we would like to welcome our next keynote speaker of our day, Rajkumar sir.
Hi, very good morning to everyone. My name is Raj, and I'm from India International University from Malaysia. So today we are going to see something about an innovative uh, tool which we need to incorporate into our rehabilitation practice. So today my title is Revolutionizing Rehabilitation Service with digital interventions, surpassing the traditional limits. So what I mean to say over here, it's very important for us to transformate our side or to shift in the way we approach rehabilitation. As technology is evolves, digital tools allow us to exceed the boundary of traditional rehabilitation. After innovative personalized solution that enhances recovery experience and also the better outcome for the patient. This the revolution, it's going to be a very much a promise tool to redefine patient care. So this is what we are going to see in next few slides, how to develop this kind of digital interventions. What are the barriers we may face? What are the benefits of utilizing digital tools? How the industry is in this society or globally, how the industry has grown and how it can impact or how it can be helpful for our rehabilitation um treatment. So which we will be seeing in next few slides. Okay, so if you look into a background, digital health, we all heard of the term digital health. So digital health, or we can say as a digital technology for health, is a salient field of practice. What we do there, it's basically we employing the routine and innovative form of technologies to address the health needs. So that is basically digital health. If you look into this digital health, um, going to utilize various tools like mobile phones, laptops, desktops, or even we can use a cloud-based system, Internet of Things. So all this we are going to utilize to give the better interventions through this to the patient, or an affordable intervention to the patient. So when you look into this word digital health, it's actually rooted from a word called e-health. Why they call it as e-health, it's because they use the information and the communication technology to, or in supporting the health and health related field. So that's we called it e-health. When you look into this digital technologies, or we can say as a industrial revolution, because all the technologies are coming from the industry. So our industry has been revolutionized for many years. So when you look into 70s, 1780s, okay, so that's where the industry revolution start booming up, where we call it as industrial revolution 1.0. And currently when you see now in 2020s, we are into an industrial revolution 5.0, where the systems are drastically changing from just a machine now to a robot or to an artificial intelligence. Many things are now into picture. So we are going to utilize this kind of technology that has revolutionized all this while. We're going to create this technology, and we're going to incorporate this technology into the medical and rehabilitation services to our patients, which is going to be a cutting edge of treatment to the actual delivery of specific interventions that has been revolutionized from 1 to 5 currently. What we are going to do over here, we are going to use this Internet of Things. We are going to use robotics with a human touch. That's where the Industrial Revolution 5.0, it's all about, with a human touch. Going to give the therapeutic interventions. We are going to monitor the patient remote, or we are going to monitor the patient progress remotely. It's not necessary the patient need to come to you. So where we can monitor the patient remotely on the progress, everything. And also we can educate them, like public health, preventive medicine, consultations to a certain extent, trainings, and also other means of networking with peoples. It's not only just a patient or differently able people, even with the healthcare professions, they can communicate each other to come up with an idea to give a better treatment to the patient. So that's where this industrial revolution now it helps us. So we have to observe it, and we have to utilize it into our treatment methods. Okay. So how to develop this treatment method? What is necessary to develop this treatment method? This digital interventions, or we call it as digital ecosystem. How to mold this ecosystem? If you look into the before, long time before, we are organization centered, or we call a hospital centered healthcare model. Currently, it has been moved. The healthcare model should be patient centered, whether the patient is affordable, patient is accessible, patient is feasible to get the service or not. So that is very important, rather than organization centered, wherever you can start a hospital, something like that before. Now, whether patient can be accessible, it's feasible, affordable. So all has to be look into picture. So that's why we call it as the ecosystem health. So if you look into specifically the ecosystem for digital health, where it starts from, the basic thing is we need to start from the supportive devices. For what? For monitoring the patient, or to giving advice, or to educate, or to assess the patient. So very simple device, mobile phones, laptops, so some other devices, wireless devices, or even wired devices, which we use to monitor the patient's progress, or to give interventions, or to give advice, educate. Okay, so that's number one, the minimal resource, okay, in terms of digital health. Second one, it's the digital health literacy. every healthcare worker, and also every people should have a set of skills and also a knowledge and attitudes the person needs in order to develop how to functionally use this information technology into their treatment to benefit either the patient clients or the healthcare workers. And social networks, using the social networks online systems, how to promote systems. So this is we need. Number 4, which is a big data, the cloud storing systems, big data in order to decision making. Okay, so you have to collect the big data and we can come up with a decision easily and faster. Number 3, e-health governance. E-health governance means it's all this uh, the things like health literacy or social networks or even the big data. Okay, all this doesn't going to come very easily. So we have to have a policymakers. Policymakers will come into this picture where it can be a national level, it can be a regional level, or it can be a global level. So that they have to have a proper coordination tools. That's why we call it as e-health governance kind of people will have to come into this picture to frame all this needs. And also we must have a telehealth or telemedicine services where we are going to use the information and communication technology. And also we must have a proper standard and interoperability uh, things. We have to look into that, like communication between the technologies and software application, using the standards for effective, accurate, and also a reliable exchange and use of data, whatever we are going to collect. Okay, and also we must have a proper electronic health record storage. Um, what to say? Recorded things, so which can help them in future to verify all these things. So this entire ecosystem we call a digital health ecosystem has to be formulated before we are really come up with any tools, okay, in order to implement the necessary things. Okay, so who is targeted? So who are the clients, or who is, it's not only the clients, it's even the healthcare workers. So we need to know who are the people who is targeted for this ecosystem. Number 1, it's the clients. Clients is our patients. Okay, so the public who are potential or the current users of health services, including health promotions activities, caregivers of the clients, caregivers of the clients receiving health services are also included in this group. Health workers like doctors, physiotherapists, nurses, social workers. So all these healthcare workers must be educated on this ecosystem. Then health system managers. Who is the health system managers? Where they are going to manage the resources. Okay, they are the managers who manage the resources, oversight of the system, supply chain management, health financing, human resource management. So all these people need to be known about this ecosystem. So in order to come with a fruitful, effective outcome. Okay, and last but not least, the data service, which is a cross-cutting functionality to support a wide range of activities related to data collection, management, use, and also exchange of data, whatever we are storing. So we need the network people. That's we call it as data services. So all these people are targeted, basically clients, health workers, data services people, health management system managers. So we have to educate them, and we have, because they are the targeted people, in order because they will be using this tools to enhance the patient intervention. Okay, so why targeted for this ecosystem? We know who is targeted, why we targeted this. Because if you look into the health system, WHO, World Health Organization, has said that we are facing many health system challenges. Like, for example, poor demand for services. Patient doesn't get a proper services at proper time, okay, to get a proper cure. Failure to follow up guidelines. Patient doesn't follow up sometimes. We also the therapists or the rehabilitation physicians or the rehabilitation therapists cannot monitor them continuously. Okay, failure to follow the guidelines. Sometimes commodity stock up, insufficient workforce, inaccessibility of the facilities. So all this kind of limited challenges or health system challenges will going to affect the quality and coverage of health interventions. So what WHO has said, we have to move from this challenges very drastic. So how? The one and only way is digital health interventions. So this going to overcome the poor demand. This is going to overcome the failure to follow the guidelines. This will overcome to uh, follow the insufficient workforce and everything, which is going to help from traditional to digital interventions, which helps in many ways of the patient. So is this ecosystem is possible? We all have to think basic. Is this possible? Of course, we have many systems we think like, oh, that's not possible, oh, this area is internet is not accessible, I cannot communicate with them. So we have all this pros and cons in order to implement this. So we all will be pondering whether is this ecosystem is possible. Yes, it is possible. I give you some of the facts where you guys can understand based on these facts. First thing, internet penetration rate. We know in the worldwide there are over 4.6 billion active internet users are there. If you know about this, so this is basically like more than 6 out of every 10 or 65.6% of people in the entire world has internet access. Okay, so that's a very important thing. And mostly 40% of Internet of Things technologies are all health related matters. Okay, so that's what NCBI has reported recently. Okay, so based on the 65% internet users, so we can do wonders using this digital interventions. Okay, so this is how the technology has progressed now. So we have to progress as well. Okay, so 1990s, you see, telephones, pre-recorded videos, live videos in 1990s. Okay, from 80s, from 90s, web-based interactive software, text messaging. When come to now recent age smartphones, applications, Internet of Things, chatbots. So all this artificial intelligence, okay, cloud computing. So all this comes into picture recently, which is going to help our way of treatment, our way of delivering the treatment to the patient. Okay, so that's, and also there is a need in the need of rise for this digital interventions. You know what? This is the fact. So 22% of the world population by 2050 we will be elderly population. We call baby boomers elderly. Okay, which is about 7.8 billion. So with this projected number 22%, so you have to know is that everyone can come to the rehabilitation department physically. It's going to be challenged because they're already elder, and whether we are able to accommodate everyone at the same time, cannot. Is that easy for us to the affordability also it's going to get it's a matter. Okay, so there's a shift in the global demographic towards a increasing in elderly population, which is one of the main factor. We really need to move into this digital interventions where we need to take care of this baby boomers. Okay, 58% reduction in cost in comparison to inpatient rehabilitation, which is going to help them tremendously. Okay, in terms of using this digital interventions. So how to build this digital interventions is very simple. Of course, we are going to incorporate the digital ecosystem, digital health ecosystem people, and then we have to identify, the first thing is we have to identify the engagement drivers, understand the theory behind it, of engaging and developing the hypothesis, why we want to, whom is a targeted population, who you want to give. So you have to identify the engagement drivers, number one. Number two, step two, fine tune with the user testing. Okay, that's kind of a pilot study. Fine tune with the user testing and code design according to the need and engage for futuristic creations. Okay, so you have to do number two. Number three, measuring. Okay, use a quantitative or qualitative data to measure the success. If you really need to refine it again. Okay, so this is how we can able to build the digital interventions. So with that, yeah, of course, digital interventions, it's going to be recommended to many people. Either it can be a client to the provider, okay, client to the provider to telemedicines, or provider to provider, or targeted specific client communication where we can make it healthcare workers only, like healthcare workers decision support, or digital tracking of the clients can be done, and also digital other tools which we can utilize. So the recommended intervention should be easily accessible, at least by using a mobile phone at a minimum. However, this device, you can use many other tools as well, like non-mobile devices, including like desktops, laptops. So we should have at least a minimum tool so that we can easily communicate with the patient. Okay. So if you see this picture, yeah, you can understand. So
Oh, we are so sorry for the inconvenience. We'll get back to the scene in few minutes. I request all the participants to turn on the camera for the gallery image. I repeat myself, I request all the participants to turn on the camera for the gallery image. I repeat myself, I request all the participants to turn on the camera for the gallery image. I repeat myself, I request all the participants to turn on their cameras for the gallery image. I request all the participants to turn on their camera for the gallery image. We are so sorry for the inconvenience. We'll start back our session in 2 minutes.
And whether we are able to accommodate everyone at the same time, cannot. Is that easy for us to, the affordability also it's going to get, it's a matter. Okay. So there's a shift in the global demographic towards a increasing in elderly population, which is one of the main factor. We really need to move into this digital interventions where we need to take care of this baby boomers. Okay, 58% reduction in cost in comparison to inpatient rehabilitation, which is going to help them tremendously. Okay, in terms of using this digital interventions. So how to build this digital interventions? It's very simple. Of course, we are going to incorporate the digital ecosystem, digital health ecosystem people, and then we have to identify, the first thing is you have to identify the engagement drivers, understand the theory behind it, of engaging and developing the hypothesis, why we want to, whom is the targeted population, who you want to give. So you have to identify the engagement drivers, number one. Number two, step two, fine tune with the user testing. Okay, that's kind of a pilot study. Fine tune with the user testing and code design according to the need and engage for futuristic creations. Okay, so you have to do number two. Number three, measuring. Okay, use a quantitative or qualitative data to measure the success. If you really need to refine it again. Okay, so this is how we can able to build the digital interventions. So with that, yeah, of course, digital interventions, it's going to be recommended to many people. Either it can be a client to the provider, okay, client to the provider to telemedicines, or provider to provider, or targeted specific client communication where we can make it healthcare workers only, like healthcare workers decision support, or digital tracking of the clients can be done, and also digital other tools which we can utilize. So the recommended intervention should be easily accessible, at least by using a mobile phone at a minimum. However, this device, you can use many other tools as well, like non-mobile devices, including like desktops, laptops. So we should have at least a minimum tool so that we can easily communicate with the patient. Okay, so if you see this picture, yeah, you can understand. So this is where we are going to explore the technology in shaping of the future of physiotherapy. Let's remain thoughtful always, open-minded, and be optimized. Okay, so this is we called as a physio-futurist. So where we are going to use artificial intelligence, virtual reality, augmented reality, robotics, 3D printing, genomics, big data. You can see over there is telemonitoring, virtual care, regenerative therapy. So all this is going to be the futuristic physiotherapy model. So we have to start incorporating into our clinical practice. Okay, it's not only physiotherapy, any rehabilitation. Okay, so we have to start incorporating this futuristic model into our practice. And also you have to ask yourself a question, based on the effectiveness, based on the accessibility, based on the feasibility, based on the resource used, based on the gender equality and also the rights. You have to ask all these questions in order for us to consolidate your evidence in order to develop a digital ecosystem. Okay, if you're okay with all this evidence consolidation, then yes, you have to go for a digital interventions. Okay, so yeah, we know already now what is digital intervention, how to create this ecosystem. And now we are going to see what is the benefit. So what you're going to get. Yeah, we are going to get a lot. Number one, extremely cost effective. Number two, increase access of users. Number three, infinite number of times new users can be used. Provide prompts, alerts, and based on specific to the protocols. Okay, practitioners to focus on more complex. I mean, the rehabilitation therapists can focus on more specific, complex tasks rather than the simple task where we can use that digital monitoring or chatbots kind of technological use. We can use it. Communication and performance feedback can be given through digital interventions. lower the number of admissions and readmissions in the hospital, provide checklist according to the protocol. So the patient itself can follow or adhere and we can monitor that, okay, through digitally. Schedule healthcare providers activities. So many things can be